Okay, there's been several questions recently, that have kind of been sort of answered and or asked, and they specifically are on the half size knit contour, knit radar, knit tracer, whatever you want to call the thing, but it's a half size one. Passap has one that's called the Forma, and it takes these sheets, which are, as you can see, less wide than the Knit Radar by Silver Reed Singer, Studio, whoever else you want to name there. I call them SSR. But they're the two main half ones, although Superba did produce a Forma for a very short time as well. I believe there is one or two others out there that uses a half size. And I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way to downsize a regular pattern using this pattern here. I'm going to use the vest and show you really quick how to downsize something. It's actually really simple. There are two different ways that you can do this. You can use paper, or you can use a mylar type piece to draw on, and then transfer it to a piece of paper or a blank one. For blank sheets of paper, I don't have them here unfortunately, but the presentation pads, they're huge pads that are used for big presentations at conventions and things along that line. And they're probably 50 to 100 pages in one of those pads. I buy one of those pads, the last one I bought was I think $8. And I just took it up to the counter in Office Depot and had them cut it to this width. And then I've got that many pages that I can draw on and I can use. I can throw them away when I'm done, or I can reuse them however I want to. They don't have a grid on them, but that doesn't really matter as far as the drawing. All I do is take a very long ruler. I actually have one that's about 3 feet long, that is actually a ruler that's used in woodworking, and I just take it and make a straight line down the edge, and sometimes a straight line down the middle, and from there I take a T-square and draw a couple of lines across. But the lines on here don't really matter as far as the drawing itself when you're using a regular pattern that's been downsized. What you're going to want to do is line up a flat edge with one of your edge pieces or your center. So it really makes it, kind of non-scientific whenever you're doing one of these. So, first thing, get these out of the way. That shows you just how much smaller the KR7 sheets, or that much larger than the Forma sheets. And you can use the Forma scales in the KR7, but you cannot use the KR7 scales in the Forma. Not as is. You can photocopy them and cut them down, I guess. But basically, I tend to size everything for the Forma. That way I can use it in any of them. Okay. Just plain tracing paper. I'm going to need one piece of it. Set aside. In my pattern. The only other thing that I'm going to need here is this, and a pencil or a pen or whatever I'm going to use to draw my dots. Obviously, this one's never been opened before, so there's no cheating on this. It's all straight up from the beginning. Okay, let's see. Aha. The front interfacing. So I guess that's the first one we found. Let's go with it. Okay. No, well, no, that's an interfacing. So let's see if we can find an actual piece. Okay. this is a front for the child's vest. And let's see, was it only child's? Nope, there's a woman's vest. Okay, so let me keep looking. That one, that's all other pieces. Joggers. Joggers. Joggers are quite complicated to make. More joggers. Aha! Women's vest. There we go. Front piece. Okay. Front piece. Looks like I've got another piece underneath here somewhere. There we go. Okay. Your pattern piece does need to be smooth. You don't need any wrinkles in it. Obviously, it's a little longer than I am. Okay, now, this has size 24 through size 6. I'm going to just arbitrarily pick one. So, you have to take some paper. And at this point, I'm going to say a size 6. Okay. Next thing you need to do is decide where to center your tracing paper on here. Typically what I do is really quick and easily, about 55 by about 59, and somewhere my cross is going to be up in here. So I'm going to place it about there. Now, next thing you're going to need is a couple of really small pieces of tape. They don't have to be very big, because all you're wanting is for this tracing paper to not move. So it is flat on there, and at this point all I need to do is choose a pen or pencil. I do a lot of different pattern drafting, and I actually draw my own patterns in a lot of cases, but in this particular instance I'm going to just use a pencil. Okay. So all I do is arbitrarily pick a point. Okay, there's my center point. What I'm going to do from this point is pick a side, left or right, doesn't matter which, but you need to stick with it. From the center point all the way down to size 6, the corner is at 27. Half of 27 will be 13 and a half. So what I do is I come up here, 13 and 1/2. Next, I go to, I'm not drawing the actual cut areas, so I'm wanting the actual outer side. So from my dot to the point, which is going to be about 26 and a quarter, which would be just a hair over 13. So 13 again. And I'm just going to go just a tiny hair over the top. Okay? Not sure why all of a sudden my light went off. But, okay. So, at this point, I continue around. From a dot to there is 28. So, that's going to be 14. Now, my center, since I'm doing 6, I need to make sure that I'm going from the dot, from my center dot to there, which is 7.5. So that's going to be 3 3/4. So 27 3/4 is going to equal 13.5 and almost 14. Yes, it's, as I said, an incredibly exact science. You know, you're kind of making half at the tip end of your brain. So you can use either your brain if you're really good at math, or if you're not, grab your calculator and just stick it on here and use it too. I've done both. 25 3/4, which is going to be 12 1/2 plus. So to mark that one, so 12 1/2 plus. Now, just really quick, let me show you what we've got here. Okay, so these are the bottom points of the vest. There's the dart. So, we've already got this, and this drawn, and notice it looks almost the exact same, you know, just in half-size miniature. You know, so, you know, you just continue around the whole thing. You know, most of this, other than the neckline and the shoulder, is all in flat, straight lines, which makes this super, super easy. Okay, 14 1/4, that makes it 7 and just maybe a millimeter or 2. So I'll put my dot there. This one's harder for me because I'm just that short. Okay, from my dot up there, 26, almost exactly. So that gives me 13. Which is right there. Now, notice if you can see, you know, remember these come out to here underneath some of this. So you've got to be careful that you get the right measurement. Although, with knit, it's not quite that hard to fix a little flub up like that. But that's 21, so that's going to be 10 1/2. Sometimes you do need 3. It's easier if you're using a pen, but it's still not very hard. So, on there. Yeah, I do like using a couple of extra points on the shoulder curve. The neck curve, I can kind of finesse it myself, but I do like actually following a couple of different little places for the actual shoulder curve, or the arm side. So for this particular one, I'm just arbitrarily picking a place. It's 13 1/2 where I'm hitting this right here. So that means I'm going to be 6 1/2 plus. So I go 6 1/2 plus a little bit. Choose another spot. 8 1/2. So that means 4 1/4. Pick another spot. 9. That gives me 4 1/2. And the inner lane, which is 12 1/2, which gives me 6 1/4. From there, I come down to where the waist changes off. So I'm going to do 19, which will be 8.5. And I don't have to draw this point down here because I've already got it drawn. So, to finish up the vest, all I have to do is connect the dots. Ooh, the knit over there is beginning to get to my back. Okay, for the neckline, I can freehand it, or I can haul out a French curve, either way, and I do have those because I do, as I said, a lot of pattern drafting. These are specifically pattern making tools and pattern drawing tools, and I'll show them to you because they're very useful. But once you've seen what they are, they actually do correspond to a lot of the curves on a regular set of French curve drawing tools. And these are what I typically am using for my half size, simply because I haven't taken the time to downsize these. This is what they call a crotch curve. You can buy it at almost any sewing website that does all kinds of sewing tools. Another one is the hip curve, or inseam and hip curve, which deals with the hip curve and the inseam of the legs. Sometimes these are actually sold together. Some companies break them apart because they're easier to store. Another one that I typically use a lot is this one, the designer's curve, and it helps you with arm side curves and neckline curves. But again, a lot of times you can use a French curve for that. You don't need specifically one of these. They're just really, really nice to have. For a half size, though, they're a little large because they are designed for full size. So, to draw in, that's a pretty long curve there. So, I can just freehand that in there. If I really wanted it to be, you know, as precise as like this arm side, I could again come up and do multiple points and then just connect my dots. But that looks good to me. Let's see, this little guy here, that fits pretty good. Let's see how this one does. Well, I like that one the best. So, my outlier, there we go, done. That's all that I need to do. Now, to make this line up on my Knit Radar or Knit Contour, all I do is untape my new pattern, move all my drawing tools out of the way. Now I can take my new pattern that I have on here. Usually I will take a Sharpie marker or something like that to make these lines a lot darker. And from there, I'll grab one of my pages that's either cut or there are a couple of blank pages in here somewhere. I think that one's one. Okay. All I have to do then is take one of these, line it up such that I've got one line that is equal here. If I was going to do this as a back seam, I would line it up right with the edge so that I can then use that as the middle. But since this is an oddball pattern piece and I'm going to have to make two of them that will mirror each other, I can put it actually anywhere in here that I want. It doesn't really matter. But basically, you know, you're just going to end up drawing this on here. You want to put it on there straight, unless you're wanting a biased pattern piece, in which case you're going to angle it so that whatever pattern that you're using will be across it equally. So, you know, you can actually place your pattern piece on here in any orientation. If you want to do it top side down, you know, all you have to do is turn it around, get it lined up, and draw it on. I have a light box that I use. All it is a piece of old glass that I had a frame built for, and I stuck a couple of LED light bars in it, and that's pretty simple. All I do is I lay this down first, lay this over the top of it. You can't see it, but I can. There's one of my lines right there. But over a light box, it's super simple. I line it up, draw it on, done. It's ready to go in the Forma or the KR7. These things are pretty simple, and I can keep this. The other option you have actually with one of these is I can actually take this and cut it, you know, directly around it, so that all I have to do, fit it on here, tape it on, done. And then I can just run it through, and I never even have to worry about actually using one of my Forma blank pages. I just don't particularly do that. I found that using the cut presentation pads works perfect. And then I don't have to worry about them. They're relatively cheap. I don't have to worry about keeping them or storing them unless it's a pattern that I want to do again. Most all of my patterns I go ahead and tailor ahead of time so that they're tailored specifically to, or excuse me, altered. Tailoring is after you've actually sewn up the garment. But I usually have my pattern altered specifically for the person that is going to wear it, and therefore it's almost ready to do perfectly. All I've got to do is seam it up, sew in the end pieces, and it's ready to go. Very, very simple. Very, very easy to do. So, you know, that's the easy way of doing a half-size pattern from a pattern piece that you bought in the store. If you draw your own patterns, it's even easier. Instead of using the actual lengths that you're going to do, half them. It's very simple. And as I said, it's just as easy to pull a calculator and lay it down here to do your calculations and your divisions.